a network? Can it be reverse engineered? First off, I'd like to say if the little kid is running and then they go and slip down there, I'm only saying that because I know a little kid who has a hole in Milwaukee that they almost fell down, and so that's terrifying. Could be drawn up of and how good bridges are. The bridges can have all different designs, but they're all meant to hold up a potential weight. Whether that weight's on it or not doesn't take away from its design. And yes, every bridge has a certain pressure point that if exceeded a weight limit, it will crumble. That specific weight limit and threshold can be found in how hazard materials are when excited with radiation. And I gotta love how open, like, with knowing who's proper and not in a traditional world is something that's kind of esoteric, just as like classically a random number generator is a crystal ball, you know. So like in a traditional world, it would be as though UV radiation is terrible, and so going outside in between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. at night could be dangerous. But it's not because of vitamin D is more important, where the absorption of sunlight gives vitamin D the ability to absorb into the body, which would modulate the immune system to fight off infectious diseases. But it's just when the World Health Organization is suggesting not to go outside in between those times because UV radiation is invisible and dangerous, is I thought we beat this in physics, was the ultraviolet light catastrophe, but then that got solved in the black body radiation understanding of what that is. And so another thing to note is that when the bad guys don't get what they want, they usually double down. And this can be seen as the statistic are more aggressive and suicidal than a normal person. This is, I'm guessing, having to do with osmosis, as in the homogeneity is offset, that your body stops trusting itself, and all the artificial attachments and detachments run out of algorithm train tracks. And that's why a data center cannot be what a bridge is, because bridges are not what data centers are. Yeah! Upwards mobility being a quality of life. The difference between garbage and treasure is not one man's trash it finds on the ground. The coordinations of randomization. If you knew what every particle made up of every nucleus were, it would be a form of string theory that's currently unknown from its complexity. Modulate something and then have it be merged, sorted. So this is where the rubber meets the road. Fairy tales and then religion, you know, the battles of the heavens that happened, and the fairy tales that are, you for now not true, but the CRISPR gene editing system just threw up their genetically modified mammal as if that hadn't been going on and behind closed doors. Would only believe the Prince and the Frog when the princess kisses it turns into a dude. We've got Beauty and the Beast. The Beast would have been turned into a guy, but first he was a guy turned into a beast. I mean, this leaves the door wide open. In Alice in Wonderland, she saw this baby and it looked so ugly, and she looked closer, it was a pig being treated as a baby. So the door is wide open with what CRISPR gene editing has in stow, with what the LGBT community thrives on, bombarding themselves with hormones of whatever it takes to change their chromosome, and then mutilating themselves in between. The mutilation of chopping off the genitalia or breasts would be a quick way of quickening the shorthand of the process. But the more interesting thing is, got thrown off, the battle of the heavens. Yeah, when those are coming in interplay, marking the difference of what the body has a routing number, and that's your genome code. This is interpreted with chromosomes, men having chromosomes, women having chromosomes. These chromosomes can be altered if flooded with hormones. These are what stopper systems are when they're called puberty blockers. It can deform a chromosome into a different gender. However, it isn't a different gender because of a placenta. Because they don't have a placenta, it would need to be surgically implanted. But if there were a certain genome of a medical hormone that would irregulate, inflame, do whatever kind of dimension analysis to deform a placenta inside of a male, that would be one hell of a subscript in order to dial in, but nonetheless is definitely a certain coding, that of which CRISPR gene editing systems could dial up, but would probably take a mass amount of miracle making in the body. This miracle making would be like of a whole bunch of different routing and rerouting, and so the technology to do that isn't available. This same kind of story of a phenomenon would be seen in trying to make, is playing within, we're in atomic realms when we don't have the tools to do that, and how that's being done is pretending that the outside of the atom isn't real. For example, if you're conducting procedures to read up what a nucleus's enclosure is, you're going to come up with the strong and weak force a lot, because, well, that's what the nucleuses are. But if you're trying to determine in the outside of an atom and you're just dialing up the Pauli exclusion principle, which would have there's every electron not spinning in the same way if it's right next to it, almost how pistons are utilized by its opposites on either end. That's the electron. And so by saying all the electrons together are just one and spinning one way, you eliminate the entire Pauli exclusion principle by using it as a scapegoat. The same way that you'd be utilizing what UV ray is because you can't see it or feel it, but to get scared of it is just a telltale signs of how low the satellites are orbiting, blasting radiation on Earth to GPS, as well as all the aerosols being blasted from jets, with the new laws of biosex having them combinate insecticides within fuel, spraying outside of the jets where they're all forward breaths. Networks are important, and how they're done is entirely digital, but the more fantastic that a connection is, the greater the outsets could be in order to achieve it.